The Fall of Devon Izara. This is actually take 2 of this video, because the first time I chose to go through it in chronological order, but I feel like it's more interesting to go through it in a different order, as you'll see. I could probably have spliced up my old video, but I chose not to. So, Devon Izara. She's one of 2 characters in all of Star Wars I can think of that we actively see fall to the dark side. The other being Anakin Skywalker, which it feels like is a low number. And there are a few other characters who went from the light side to the dark, most notably Count Dooku, but also, of course, Barriss Offee and Pong Krell. And as much as I hate Pong Krell's fall, or not even really his fall, but the fact when it's revealed that he has fallen, he is at least a character who has done that. There's surprisingly few characters in Star Wars who have fallen to the dark side, given that one of the main characters of the setting in Anakin Skywalker, the core character, or very least, certainly the main character of episode 2 and 3, his arc is about falling to the dark side. You'd expect it to be more, but there's really just not. Some characters go up to the dark side and look at it and then go back, like Ezra does. I think Cal Kestis is doing that in the Jedi Fallen Order games, but none actually properly fall. It's interesting. Anyways, Devon. Well, her fall to the dark side, I'd argue, kind of starts before the show even begins. Because by the time the show has begun, she's already clearly showing her annoyance and her frustration with the system and her place in the galaxy, with the rise of the Empire, and how Daki is not doing what she thinks they need to do to, simply survive in a way. Is Daki saying, don't steal food, we can rely on the kindness of others. So her introduction to us is someone who steals food and then gets annoyed with the cops. That is by no means very close to falling to the dark side. But there is definitely a bit moving towards that direction. Stealing food is inherently a selfish act, even if it is justifiably selfish. If they're starving, which it is implied that they are very hungry and not getting enough food. So it is very much justifiable, but still, she's stealing food. That is a selfish act to feed herself. And that is a little tick down the path of the dark side. And then she gets all caught up in the police station, and she's all annoyed and not talking to the cops there. Again, she's being a bit angry, a bit annoyed, a bit frustrated. Those are all things that are slightly tilting her towards the dark side. And, why is she falling to the dark side? Well, in my opinion, she is falling to the dark side because Master Eeko-Dio Daki is not doing a good job. Devon is consistently frustrated with who Master Eeko-Dio Daki is, what he's doing, and more importantly, what he is not doing. She feels almost betrayed by him, in a way. We see this in that first scene again, as she's being taken away by the cops. Echo is just going, yeah, go with them, you'll be fine, just go with the cops. He's abandoning her, and she's annoyed with that. Then later on, when she's being freed from the prison by Maul, she's once again, she tries to go to Daki, and Daki chooses to save the people, not save her. She is still feeling that sense of abandonment by Master Daki. And she goes on. Then she managed to eventually break out of the prison on her away from Maul on her own. And then she goes with Daki and he's still very much talking about not trying to help the world. He's trying to, first off, he goes to talk to Maul, and he tries to bring Maul in to justice. Maul then offers to help him bring down the Empire, which she's feeling that Daki is not doing well, what Jedi should be doing. As we see later on in the next episode, she's saying to Daki, this after the Empire's descended, what about Maul? She asked him. And what we're supposed to think, and what Daki thinks, is she's saying, what about Maul? Why? We cannot just leave Maul here. So Daki responds, we can leave Maul to the Empire. And she's going, but why would we... So then she later brings up, why don't we join up with Maul? Like, team up. He said he will help us fight the Empire. And at some point during all these conversations, Daki says, it's your voice I hear, but Maul's words are coming out of it, or something like that. Like, he's clearly saying, you are becoming more like Maul. And what she's really saying is, what she's thinking is, why aren't we being Jedi? Why aren't we standing up against the evil? Why aren't we being the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy? And Daki even at some point says, the Jedi are no longer the guardians of peace in the galaxy. He is telling her that you cannot be what you've been trained to be as a Jedi. Daki is fundamentally failing with Devon here. Then, so, to a point where when they eventually get separated and she goes off, has a bit of an adventure with Maul, she doesn't even tell Master Daki that she was with Maul, because she doesn't think that Daki will understand and respect her. She thinks, fairly rightly, that Daki would just chide her for being with Maul. And later on in episode 8, in what is, in my opinion, Daki's lowest moment in the show, Daki, while they're escaping from the firefight that was caused at the prison, completely unrelated to her actions, he chides her for going too fast and being too risky in their movements while they're being actively chased. And so she turns up the speed on the speeder and says, well, we need to go fast because we need to be able to escape them like this. And we see that, and also, I'm jumping around a bit here, sorry, but back in episode 4, when they go to the Lawsons, Daki essentially tells her, go get Riley out of the room. But while he's probably more doing that to say, hey, we don't have Riley here, I need to kind of get rid of him from this room. What she hears in that is, once again, I do not respect you as a person. You are a child like Riley is. And let the grown-ups talk. That is what she's hearing from him. She's showing, Daki doesn't respect me. Daki is continuously showing that he does not respect her and her decisions throughout the show. But Jedi are failing her. And later, when Daki does realize that she's got a much deeper connection with Maul than he first realized, he confronts her about it and says, why are you not telling me about Maul? Why are you hiding him from me? And, well, the answer is, of course, simple, because she doesn't think that he'd respect her decisions and her ability to make her own choices. He is, in trying to keep her away from Maul, he's just pushing her deeper and deeper into him, because she doesn't think that Daki can trust her to believe in her. Meanwhile, as I'll get on to, Maul does trust her. Maul respects her. And if anything, Maul believes too much in her abilities. And, well, yeah. So everything Daki has done about Devon is just a failure to hold her to the Jedi. He's actively telling her, do not be a Jedi. We are not guardians of peace and justice. Do not fight the evil Empire. Do not fight the evil Maul even. While that's not what she's thinking about at the time. He's showing Maul is evil, but don't worry about it. Leave him to others. We're fine on our own. We're not going to be the ones to deal with Maul. We're not going to be the ones to deal with the evil. However, on the flip side of the coin, we have Darth Maul, who she's been told stories about, that he's an evil man, a monster. While this isn't really related to the main talk of this video, I'm not really sure when else I'm going to have a chance to talk about it, and I want to. And, well, that is, why the hell does she know who Maul is? She says later on that she's heard the stories of him and she knows not to trust him. And while sure she's heard the stories, I know that she almost would have heard the story of Obi-Wan having murdered having killed off the first Sith in 1,000 years or however long it's been. As she's, and because, that would be big news amongst the Jedi. I would definitely have persisted into the Clone Wars time, when I'm not quite sure how old she was supposed to be or when she became a Jedi. But I thought you'd get that she didn't know that story, but she said stories, and also that, that story would end with Maul's death. I can't imagine that her first thought upon seeing a Zabrak with a lightsaber would be, oh yeah, this is that guy Kenobi killed 20 years ago. No. So, what is she meaning by that? I can only imagine that means she must have heard the stories of Maul during the Clone Wars. And because she almost would not have heard it while on Janix, because while there are criminals who work on Janix, even Lawson does not know who Maul is. He needs to go talk to a criminal. So it's clearly not common parlance. And as we see with Vario and Demas, they don't want to mention Maul's name. Because, out of fear he might return, fear he might appear. So she must have heard about it during the Clone Wars, but it never really struck me that Maul's actions during the Clone Wars would really have been public knowledge within the lower ranks of a Jedi. Even Daki probably wouldn't have known, I would have guessed. And even if he did know who Maul was during the Clone Wars, why would he have told her about Maul by this point? Maul's actions were fairly self-contained. The Jedi Council obviously knew, but Daki was not there. The Kenobi very much obviously knew. He's on the council, but shush. How many people would they have told about it? Because, I don't know. It just strikes me as a bit weird that she knows who Maul is. And I can't really figure out why she would. I don't know. Anyways, but she does know who Maul is. She recognizes him. She's heard all these stories about Maul and how evil and murderous he is. But he shows her throughout this arc that he's not that person who she's heard stories about. And quite frankly, those stories simply are not true. They are lies about Maul. I'll probably get into the misportrayal of Maul, which in a later video, because Maul's post-resurrection is not as bad as people people think he is. He's a complicated character. And I didn't really have enough time to go into that properly in my Mega Maul video. That was more what he has done rather than who he is. I don't know when I'm going to make that second video about Maul, but I will at some point. Anyways, yes. So she's heard all these stories about who Maul is. He's a monster, he's a villain, he's a mass murderer. But that's not who she sees him as. Maul breaks out of prison, and then he brings her to his own prison, effectively. And throughout her time there, he's constantly telling her, oh, you can break out of here. You can leave whenever you want. And then he's disappointed when she hasn't left. He's disappointed when she hasn't shown her ability to escape. And she thinks that he's just lying to her initially because, he's Maul, he's evil. But no, he honestly believes, and because he knows she can escape if she just puts her mind to it and uses the Force properly. And she forces back her cage that she's in and manages to escape, like Maul said she could. Then she gets directed by the Mandalorians to go greet Maul, who, rather than attacking her or being angry with her, is just sitting there calmly with a cup of tea, or 3 cups of tea, making some tea. And he goes, yes, finally, you've managed to escape, or something like that. And then they have a chat. And through the chat, she realizes that Maul is not the true evil that he has presented himself as, because he's telling her about how the Empire, or the Emperor, is the same one that destroyed their order, the same one who murdered his brother, murdered his mother. And he's drawing connections with her, just much like he tries to do with Ezra and Ahsoka. Because that's who Maul is. Maul is a man who was hurt by the Emperor, and Maul wants to bring him down. And he sees in her the ability to do that, and she realizes that he respects her. He respects her power. He respects her as a useful person to be his ally. And so he's talking to her. He could have easily killed her, of course, but he doesn't want to do that. He wants to be with her. Then when she and Daki go to confront him in episode 4, I think I might have said episode 4 earlier when I meant episode 6. You know what I meant. He first off tried to make a deal with Lawson, showing to her once again he's not the bad person that the stories have made him out to be. And then Daki tries to say, hey, how about we come to an agreement? You come quietly and go to prison. And Maul says, no. How about we work together to bring down the Empire? He is once again showing that he is willing to fight for good. He's willing to fight against the evils that are out there, which Daki is, as I mentioned, actively not doing. Daki is saying, do not fight. Maul is saying, do fight. Be a Jedi. Be good. Be a guardian of peace in the galaxy. He's offering her what she wants from him. And then, they then have a fight. At the end of it, Maul is about to pounce and kill Daki, but then Devon jumps in and saves him, and then Maul says to Daki, you are lucky to have an apprentice like her. He's telling Daki, honestly, what Daki's biggest flaw is, and at the same time bringing Devon closer to him. He's telling him that you should respect Devon. She is useful. She is good. And that is what all Devon wants to hear, really, at this point. She wants to be useful. She wants to know she's useful. And Maul is telling her that she's good, that she's useful. Meanwhile, Daki is continuously showing that he does not respect her. He does not think she's useful. I think the only time, Daki does occasionally show care and respect for her, but he rarely actually shows that he cares about her. He just says, go do this or something. Whereas it doesn't praise her. I think the only time he really praises her is when they're going down the elevator and she senses that something's evil and he goes, yes, my pattern was never wrong and I sense it too. Which is really just saying, oh yeah, I've also sensed that. Even though she was the one who brought it up first. That's almost, again, it feels like he's almost trying to take credit for her achievements in what he's saying there. Even if that's not what he's doing, that's almost how she's interpreting it. Because Daki is not doing a good job being his master. Her master, meanwhile, Maul is praising her. He's saying, you're good, you're worthy. So then later, after they've escaped from the casino, being chased down by the Inquisitor, Marok, Maul jumps in to save her, and he saves her, and he comes specifically to looking for her to save her because Maul respects her. Maul wants her with him. Maul's again showing that he likes her, that he respects her, and he saves her from Marok, which is not something Daki did. Daki just basically said, let's run from Marok together. Maul showed, let's fight Marok together. Right? That's almost a fundamental difference is how Daki deals with Marok in episode 6 versus how Maul deals with Marok in episode 6. Daki says, run from the Empire. Maul says, fight the Empire. Maul then takes them down into the sewers, into his base, and he's telling her, we can fight the Empire, we can do this, we can win, but she still tries to escape with him because Riley's there. She still wants to be with her master and wants to get Riley back to Lawson. So she tries to escape from him, but he jumps down and she says, we're not going to take on the whole Empire together. And Maul goes, we can, once we train together, we need to leave now because there will be another opportunity to do so. So then she runs off and Maul chases her down. He tries to stop her leaving because he needs her. Once again, even though Maul is at this point actively working against her, he's showing her that he cares about her, that he desires her to join him, to be with him, which is not something Daki does. Meanwhile, Then, of course, Riley gets captured. Well, actually, no, first off, we go around a little bit. Then, when the Empire descends upon the compound that they're at, Maul chooses to stop going after her and save his men. He is showing that he has loyalty to the people he cares about, loyalty to the people who work for him, which is, as I mentioned earlier, not something Daki does. Daki, the Jedi, chooses to abandon his Padawan twice in this show. Maul always chooses to go and defend his people when the opportunity is there. He saves his people from the Empire, and she goes, okay, I will come in, I will help you save your people. And it's only when Riley gets taken from her that she runs off and tries to save Riley. And she's gets thrown off a gunship, having failed to save Riley at the top of the sewers, and she looks down at Maul, and she chooses to leave Maul because she needs to save Riley. She's still trying to save people. And she realized that Maul will do fine on his own. It's Riley who needs her help, so she goes off after Riley. But she's still been, at this point, still corrupted by Maul's influence. She has realized that Maul is not the monster he's been made out to be. He saves his people. He doesn't just single-mindedly go on the attack. He didn't kill her. He offered to work with her and Daki. Meanwhile, Daki is just going, no, we shall never work together. He is evil. We cannot work with him. We will not fight the Empire. Maul's going, I will fight the Empire. And he's actively fighting the Empire. When Maul jumps at the Empire, meanwhile, Daki jumps away from the Empire. And she wants to jump at the Empire. She wants to take the fight to the Empire. She wants to bring down those who destroyed the Jedi Order. Destroyed her way of life, destroyed her promise of being someone worth existing. As she meant, as back when she was with Riley in Riley's room, Riley goes, she tells Riley, we've had very different childhoods. Because she's been trained to be a Jedi, meanwhile he's just been a regular kid. And now she's not able to be that sort of Jedi because Daki is holding her back. But Maul is promising to let her do what she wants. Let her take the fight to the Empire. So then, when Maul sends her a vision that they should meet up, she chooses to go with him. She chooses to go be with him, along with the rest of the hero's crew. And they join up with Maul, and then this is where Daki questions her about her dealings with Maul, because she has been lying to him, but she's just once again seeing that, Daki doesn't trust me, he doesn't respect me to make my own choices about my life. So she chooses to stop. So then when they go down to the sewers, and they jump across, Maul, even the small things, like Maul tells Rookcast to go to the other side while he holds back the Empire, holds back the Inquisitors and the Empire, because he's once again trying to save the people he cares about over just, selflessly saving himself, like she probably believes he would do. She's seeing that Maul is not the true villain of this. He's fighting the Empire, while he's taking the fight to the Empire, holding them back, doing whatever they can to beat back the Empire. And so then, as they all manage to escape across and then even after both Daki and Devon and everyone else has crossed the Acid River, Maul stays on the other side and fights the Empire, which was honestly kind of pointless from a pure strategic perspective. But what is he trying to do there in reality? He is showing Devon, I can fight the Empire. You guys are having to flee. I could hold them off here. And so even as she's holding him over, she's going, yes, this is someone who lives up to what he's claiming. He claims he can take on the Empire, and he's showing me he can take on the Empire. And so that is building respect for him within her. So then, of course, he does eventually jump across the river, and she tells him as they leave into the surface, I'm sorry about your friends dying, because she saw that his friends are dead. And she's empathizing with him because Maul is showing that he is someone who cares about his friends. He cares about those around him. And she's responding to that and empathizing with him, which is not something that she would have ever thought she could do when she first saw him. Meanwhile, so then Rookcast also dies, and then they have a fight with Vader. During this fight, Maul is giving her advice about how to take on the Inquisitors, how to take on Vader. They need to give in to their rage, be more like a Darksider to do so. And she's going, yeah, that makes sense. And then when she does eventually, she gives into her anger a bit more. And that's how she's able to hold off the two Inquisitors for a while. Even if I think she'll still hold off against them for a bit longer than she should. Then, so she fights them off, and then she sees Daki die, and that sends her into full-blown anger mode as she goes, and she starts lashing out at the 11th. She starts lashing out at the 11th brother with full rage in her eyes. She attacks him, and eventually she cuts his leg, and the 11th brother goes, oh shit, and runs away from her in fear. And then she chases after him. It's still in her rage, because she knows she can bring him down. She's going after him. She will get him. And then Vader shows up, the one who murdered her master. And he starts smashing her down. Eventually, Maul brings down the rocks on Vader, and she retreats to Maul, realizing that they need to take him on together. They need to be together in the end. And then then Maul says, we need to leave, but she goes, no, I must take on Vader. So Maul has to physically restrain her. She's dived into her anger almost too much for Maul to handle at this moment, but he's still won. His training, his ideals have taken over over Master Daki's, as she realizes that I need to go into the dark side. I need to delve into my anger. She has fallen to the dark in order to destroy the Empire. And Maul tells her, we can take on the Empire, but first I need to train you. So they go off, they escape on Dryden Voss's ship, and then the final scene of the show is Devon telling Maul that she is ready to be taught the ways of the Sith by him. That is it for this video. Up next is, Yes, episode 8. The wasted potential of episode 8. I'm going to obviously talk about more next week. But yes, I wish it was better. Then I teased I had one video planned, but I've actually got the second one in the brain space that might come out first, because that one's more rolling around in my mind right now. I don't know which one's going to come out first. I'm not going to tell you about either of them. So stay tuned.